Are you planning to start your very first veggie garden this year, grow a little food, but not quite sure exactly which varieties to grow? Well, heck, you're not alone. The task of choosing what to grow can be just as daunting as how to grow it for a brand new gardener. So in this video, we're going to give you a comprehensive guide on how to choose exactly which varieties to grow for your very first garden. So let's get after it. All right, so I want nothing but success for your first year growing in the garden. Heck, and every year for that matter. So I'm going to give you a comprehensive 12-point guide to choosing the right varieties for your very first garden. And I'm also going to give you a short list of some pretty easy vegetables to grow your first time around and the exact varieties that I actually like to grow myself. So let's get into it. All right, so now the first thing you're going to want to think about is what growing or climate zone you're in. Different varieties of plant grow better in different areas. So it's important to know your growing zone before choosing your plants. You're going to want to research which plants are suitable for your area, and as I say in all of my videos, it's all about context. What grows well for me here in Zone 5B in Michigan may not grow well for you in Florida, or vice versa, of course. So you want to choose varieties that are going to thrive in your environment. Like I said, I'm here in Zone 5B, and there's certain things I can grow and certain things I can't grow. And I have to know that before choosing what to grow out in our garden or in the market garden for sure. You know, I would love to be able to grow oranges and lemons and all kinds of citrus, but I can't grow that here in Michigan because in Zone 5B, our growing season is just too doggone short. So I have to know what I can grow. I can grow blueberries, strawberries, elderberries, raspberries, apples, pears, and cherries. Those all grow well if I want to grow some fruit. And of course, our cool season crops and warm season vegetables all grow well here as well. So I just need to know exactly what varieties thrive up here and can grow in a little bit shorter amount of time than they would say down south. The big thing when you're researching your growing zone, like I said, I'm here in Zone 5B, and it can even get as specific as your zip code, and that can be looked up. I believe I looked mine up on the farmersalmanac.com. So you can look up your first and last frost dates. That's what's really important. Here where I'm at, my first and last frost dates are May 22nd and September 23rd, meaning I really don't want to plant anything, at least anything uncovered that's susceptible to frost or freeze. So I need to wait till almost June 1st to plant any of my tomatoes, my cucumbers, my pepper plants, any of that stuff, eggplants. Before I can move any of that stuff outside, I need to wait till that last frost date has passed. And then the same goes in the fall. You kind of want to get your crops off that are going to be very susceptible to frost, or know that you're only going to be able to grow them up until that first hard frost hits. And it may not be September 23rd, it may be October 5th. But these, there's about a 30% chance of you actually getting a frost on your first and last frost date for your growing zone, so it's definitely something to keep in mind. And I know that in past years, it's definitely been something that's bit me in the butt. I've lost entire 50-foot beds because I got a little bit too anxious and moved my plants outside too soon. So those are definitely lessons that you can avoid by knowing your first and last frost date for your growing zone and taking it seriously and planning accordingly. And so with those first and last frost dates, I know that gives me a growing season frost-free of about 123 to 125 days. So I can work that into my crop plan. All right, now the second thing you want to think about is your soil. You want to make sure it's got good drainage, know what soil type it is, and what your pH levels are. It's important to know your soil type and your pH levels before choosing your plants because different plants thrive in different soil types. So you want to make sure that you're choosing varieties that work well in your soil or amending your soil for the varieties that you're choosing. To give you a few examples, berry bushes like to have a little more acidic soil. They like their pH levels to be between 4.5 and 5.5. Now the lower the number, the higher your acidity level in your soil. Now for your annual vegetables and your greens, they like to be between 5.8 and 6.5. Whereas your sweet corn would prefer to be between 5.8 and 7. They don't mind being a little bit higher. Your tomatoes like to hang out around 6.2 to 6.8, where your melons really prefer to be between 6.0 and 6.5. If you drop below 6.0 on melons, you'll get a lot of foliage, but you're not going to get many melons. So it's a good idea when you're getting started to do a quick soil test to check your pH levels. And really, if your soil's between 6.0 and 7.0, you're going to grow a heck of a lot of food. Now, if you're a brand new gardener, I suggest starting with easy to grow vegetables. There are a handful of vegetables that are fairly simple to grow. You grow a lot of food off them, and you'll definitely be able to see that you have what it takes to grow some veggies, and then maybe you can step it up next season. And I'll give you a list of those in just a second. But easy to grow, low maintenance vegetables is always a smart choice first time around. Now, the fourth thing you want to think about, and I think this is probably the most important, is what the heck do you like to eat? Grow what you like. You know, I think it's really easy to get caught up in there's 100 different things you could grow, especially if you're thinking about, you know, growing to sell a few veggies. Grow what you like, grow what you want to eat, and you can't go wrong. You can always expand from there, but start simple and grow what you want. Figure out exactly what you like. If you don't like tomatoes, don't grow tomatoes. You know what I mean? So, and that's number 4, is pick the things you really look forward to having fresh. Here's my suggestion on a few easy to grow veggies, just a few simple steps. But the first one is tomatoes, specifically cherry tomatoes. As long as you give them a little trellis to grow up, a string to grow up, it's amazing how much a couple plants can produce. As far as variety, I really like growing sweetie cherry tomatoes and blueberry cherry tomatoes. They're very abundant, great on salads, and definitely a favorite of our customers. Now the second one is cucumbers. I love cucumbers. Fresh cucumbers on a salad, it's hard to beat it. I really like growing Marketmore 76. They produce well, they taste great. That's my pick for cucumbers. The third one is going to be beans. Whether you want to do bush beans or pole beans, I like Kentucky pole beans myself, Kentucky bush beans. You can grow a heck of a lot of beans in a pretty small area. The fourth one is one of my hands down favorites, and that is lettuce, or our salad mix. I personally won't grow anything but Salanova lettuce. I love Salanova lettuce. I love the taste of it. I love the consistency, and that's just what we grow for our salad mix. So I grow a red sweet crisp, a green sweet crisp, red butter, green butter, and a little spinach, maybe some baby kale, and that's our salad mix. Pretty simple to grow, grows pretty quick, you can get a couple cuttings off it. So lettuce is my fourth tip. My fifth one is going to be carrots. I love some fresh carrots. As long as you have some good loose soil and you keep the seeds moist while they're germinating, they're pretty simple to grow. It's hard to beat a good fresh carrot. As far as varieties go, I really like the Scarlet Nantes. I've grown all kinds of different varieties, but that's one of my favorites, and that's the majority of what I'm going to grow as far as carrots go this year. Now, the next one on the list is going to be bunching onions or green onions. I love growing green onions. They're very simple to grow, very simple to get started, and they're pretty versatile. So bunching onions, specifically the Tokyo Whites, are going to be my favorite. We grow them all the time, almost all season long. The last one on the list, we can't pass up radishes. Those buggers are so easy to grow, and they grow in about 28 days, so it's a real quick win. And again, great on a fresh salad. So for some pretty quick and easy vegetables to grow, we got cherry tomatoes, cucumbers, beans, lettuce, carrots, bunching onions, and radishes. And that's a pretty solid list to get you going. Now, the fifth thing to consider is the space you have. If you have a small garden or limited space, you're going to want to choose compact varieties that don't take up a lot of space. Some of the examples would be bush beans rather than pole beans, like I said, cherry tomatoes, and maybe even patio peppers. Another thing, if you have limited space, is to do some vertical gardening as well. Like I said with the cherry tomatoes, trellis them, let them grow up. You can do the same thing if you want to really maximize your space. You could do pole beans rather than bush beans. So just completely dependent on your space and your context, but you're going to want to choose varieties that work well for your growing area. Now, the sixth thing you're going to want to do is check your seed packets. They're going to tell you the space they recommend, and as far as the spacing goes on seed packets, for high density planting, little pro tip, I usually cut that in half and you should be just fine. But see what they say for spacing, see how many days to maturity, and see what the sun requirements are for it. The back of the seed packet should tell you everything, and that'll help you make an informed decision on which varieties to grow. Now, the seventh thing to consider is companion planting. You know I'm huge on companion planting. I'm doing a whole series on it because I think it's that important. Because some plants actually do grow better next to other plants. A good example of that is tomatoes and basil, or corn and beans. You know, there's different varieties that can definitely benefit from growing next to one another. Now, number 8 is you're going to want to choose varieties that are disease resistant if possible, because some varieties are actually more prone to disease than others. You know, in researching what varieties work best in your area can help you choose varieties that are disease resistant and give you a better chance for success with those. The ninth tip would be to choose heirloom varieties if possible. These are varieties that have been passed down from generation to generation, and they've actually been found to have more unique flavors and actually be more resistant to pests and disease. Now the 10th thing you're going to want to think about, and it kind of goes back to when we talked about our growing zone, is considering your length to maturity. How long does it take for your specific varieties to go from seed to harvest? So you're really going to want to think about the length of your growing season, because some varieties do take longer to mature than others. And you want to choose varieties that will mature within the length of your specific growing zone and your growing season. For example, if you live up here in 5B in a colder climate with a shorter growing season, we want to grow varieties that have shorter days to maturity. And if you do your research, most of the vegetables have a variety that does better in shorter or longer seasons. So you just got to do your research for where you're at. I know that the varieties that I spoke about that we grow work really well for here where I live in Zone 5B. Might not be the same for you down south or on the other side of the world. So just depends on your context, as always. Now tip number 11, and I think this is one of the most important, is plan for succession planning. To maximize your harvest and extend your growing season, plan to plant your vegetables in succession. This means planting different varieties at different times so you have a continual harvest and a fresh supply of produce all season long. For example, with my salad mix, I will plant salad every couple weeks to ensure that I've got salad all season long, and I will do that with my summer squash and my winter squash. And if you plan for that in the beginning, you can have a very abundant harvest all season long. All right, now the 12th and final tip is to really consider the level of maintenance required for the plants that you choose. Some plants require more maintenance than others. So if you don't have a lot of time or you're a beginner gardener, choose low maintenance varieties that don't require a lot of attention. And a good example of that would be your bush beans, your lettuce, and your bunching onions. Those are very low maintenance crops. All right, now choosing which varieties to grow in your first garden can be a fun and rewarding experience. And by considering your climate, your soil, your space, your personal tastes, you can create a garden that will provide you with fresh, delicious produce all season long. So happy gardening, and we'll see you on the next one.